For someone who has never used YouTube and now wants to start their own YouTube channel, how do they find the right niche?
That's a good question and a very relevant one. I believe people sometimes don't ask themselves these essential questions enough before starting something. Finding the right niche is important because if you want to reach everyone on YouTube, then you will reach no one. So you need to be aware of who my target audience is, and accordingly, you should think about which niche I could serve. And to be able to answer this question, it naturally depends on what you are interested in and what skills you bring with you. So you can only serve a niche where you can also bring value. Otherwise, people won't watch your videos. And accordingly, you first need to ask yourself, where is your area of interest? In fact, it is so pronounced that you say, I am also willing to develop sustainably in this area. Why is this important? Because YouTube is not something you do short term. You really need to produce sustainable content in order to build a good personal brand. This means that if you can now find an area of interest where you also have skills and where there is a market with people interested in this topic, then it makes sense to look for an intersection between what you already know how to do and an area of interest that you are willing to continuously expand and where there is also demand. This means, on one hand, you need to engage with yourself and ask, where am I actually good? What are my interests? On the other hand, ideally, you have certain analytical skills or are able to analyze the market to see if it resonates. So is it just my interest, or is there interest from other people as well, and could I provide added value there?
How should he, the entrepreneur, or the company, approach the matter now?
One should first ask themselves, why and for what purpose do I want to use YouTube marketing? Do I want to reach new, potential customers? Do I want to expand my customer portfolio, or do I want to retain existing customers? Or do I want to position myself as an expert and demonstrate my competence in the market so that people gain trust? So what is the goal? Suppose a company says, I want to acquire new customers. Then the strategy looks very different than if a company says, no, I want to retain my existing customers so that I can generate further sales with them in the future.
Does he need an external marketing agency for this, or should he rather approach it internally?
I would recommend a company, especially when it comes to YouTube marketing, to work with internal employees or to equip them with the necessary skills. And that is because YouTube marketing is not something you do just once. Rather, it is truly a sustainable, long-term strategy with a sustainable content plan that you should build if you approach it the right way. And I believe it is better if someone internal, who not only knows the products and services, but also the philosophy and values of the company and lives them every day, will be a better ambassador for the company than someone who is employed at an agency and receives a brief, knowing it only from theory, not from practice.
We have often observed that many marketing companies actually have no understanding of YouTube marketing. Companies spend their money on traditional or old methods to reach or engage their target audience. What do you think about that? So, have the agencies in Switzerland or generally become aware of this tool, or will they still recognize this trend? What is your perspective on it?
I can't obviously speak for all agencies, as I haven't looked into all of them, but from what I've experienced, I actually feel that Switzerland is a bit behind. And that is amazing because a marketing agency has the tools to conduct analyses. This means, from my perspective, that a marketing agency should be able to recognize this trend and also train themselves in the corresponding skills and abilities to pass them on. In my view, this has not been recognized enough, and that is why I have decided to offer services and courses in this area. Because I am convinced that if a company manages training existing marketing employees so that they know how to use this valuable and powerful tool is sustainably better than becoming dependent on it.
Is it possible that the marketing agencies are too complacent and just receive money?
I don't think that is conscious. I rather believe that even the marketing agencies are not aware of how important YouTube marketing can be for a company. I believe that this trend simply hasn't fully arrived yet because people are probably so busy with their day-to-day operations that they don't look beyond their immediate boundaries. And that is the advantage. For example, that we always look beyond the border, go to other countries to see what is coming to Switzerland, just delayed. And yes, I don't think they are aware that they do not offer it or could not offer it. But it is knowledge that one must first learn or train themselves in. So it is a new field. YouTube search engine optimization is not the same as Google search engine optimization. So if someone understands SEO for Google, it has nothing to do with whether they understand SEO for YouTube. And I simply believe that many marketing agencies are so busy with their day-to-day operations that they don't even have the time to develop further in this area.
What do you think about the idea that when someone completes your courses and undergoes the content creator training with us, they can then act as an expert in a company and present products and services? Can it also help strengthen customer loyalty or reach new target audiences? What do you think of this?
I find this a very valuable approach because I believe that not everyone who is suitable to become a content creator is automatically suited to be self-employed and become an entrepreneur. These are two different areas that one must master, and I believe that there are indeed people who have an interest in marketing content creation and can acquire this knowledge, but they are better advised to be employed internally in a company. For example, act as ambassadors of the company. We are in an incredible time of transformation. Specifically, marketing and sales have adapted enormously due to digitalization and the fact that people are consuming more video content. They no longer want to be advised in person as often. Instead, they say they prefer to consume information digitally, wanting to save time and not travel to appointments. They want this information to be delivered in a digital manner so they can then decide on a service or product. And more companies are becoming aware that these old sales models are no longer resonating. Well, it is also the case that due to the enormous flood of information, we should no longer simply promote our products and services with an advertising video, like we used to. Of course, there are still companies that do this. I believe that is a mistake because the customer, the end customer or the consumer, does not want to see advertisements, but rather desires solutions for their needs and problems. And when a company realizes that a change has taken place, they will understand it because you can see it in the numbers. So we can see from our analyses that content creation is increasingly coming to the attention of companies. And when a company is aware that this is the more efficient and effective way to reach customers and also strengthen customer loyalty, then this profession will gain enormous importance. Being a content creator doesn't just mean that I can set up the camera and understand the technology behind it. It is a profession that requires a holistic understanding of both the technology and, for example, other related aspects. Algorithms, because the video will then be uploaded to YouTube or other platforms. That means I also need to understand the algorithms, but I also need to understand the psychology of people, because on the other side, there is a viewer, and this viewer has a need, a problem, or a desire. And if I can manage to first recognize this need and then satisfy it with my content, with valuable content, and show my competence, then the likelihood is very high that I can convert this viewer into a loyal viewer over time, and if it fits, if I have a service or a product that solves a design problem, I can also convert them into a customer. And more companies are becoming aware of this. That's why I believe that one of the best career paths in today's world is being a content creator, who not only understands the technical aspect, but is also well-rounded. For example, communication. That's why we developed a holistic training program, because we noticed that often only technical skills and strategic approaches are taught. What is very important, however, is that a content creator is the personal brand, meaning the person who sits in front of the camera and has an impact. This means that if you have an employee who has technical knowledge and can apply it, but does not engage or lacks communication skills, then the content strategy is not as valuable as it would be if approached holistically.
What do you think about advertising? Is it useful, or is the best form of advertising demonstrating competence?
I believe a combination of both makes sense. However, if one only relies on advertising, I find that a bit critical. In my view, advertising makes sense when, for example, I have built a so-called content library. As an example for a company that wants to acquire new customers, it is important that the potential new customer realizes that the company can solve a problem for them. This means that the company can now, for example, answer frequently asked questions that arise in this context, and the potential customer realizes, hey, there is someone who is competent and offers exactly what I need. And so, one can build a content library, and when one runs advertisements, it can be useful to draw potential customers' attention to this content. However, if there is no content and one simply runs ads for a product or service, I believe that in today's world, there is a significant loss of reach.
How often should a company produce and upload videos? And for a content creator who wants to become self-employed part-time, how often should they actually produce and upload videos?
So in general, you can't really answer that. Or rather, the more content, the better, but not at the expense of quality. So, one must find a balance between uploading content regularly and still ensuring quality. I don't believe that one should just produce a lot of content without paying attention to quality in order to upload as much as possible, because that can harm the image. So if the content is not of high quality, potential customers may be deterred. And that's why I believe one should look at how much time and resources can be invested in content production, and then plan accordingly to ensure consistency. So you prefer to upload one video per week, and because of that, you are consistent and upload a video every week, and your subscribers and your community also know that they can expect a video every week, rather than uploading 10 videos in 1 week and then nothing for 2 months. So it really comes down to planning and resources.
And how important is the connection between YouTube marketing and the provided website, podcast, and social media channels? How important is it to consider not just YouTube, but to look at the whole picture holistically?
I believe that the more holistic one understands the whole thing, the better, because YouTube belongs to Google. So YouTube is also a search engine built by Google, and accordingly, it makes sense to connect and understand it interdisciplinarily. So I mentioned earlier that Google SEO is not the same as YouTube SEO, but there are, of course, parallels. For example, for those who are familiar with Google SEO, there is on-page and off-page optimization. And off-page optimization means that I don't program something on the site itself, but rather do it through links, for example. And this off-page programming or search engine optimization also works for YouTube. So that's a parallel. It works a bit differently. This means that if I am able to build an SEO-optimized website, fill it with good content, and then connect it interdisciplinary with my YouTube videos and the content I create, I am much better positioned in search engine. Additionally, it makes sense for me to use social media channels. So, once I have built a YouTube channel, I can reuse that content. Depending on the social media channel, you need to adjust things a bit, but it makes sense to cover the whole approach comprehensively.
What is it about YouTube presence that so many companies shy away from being in front of the camera? Perhaps because they are anxious or doubt their abilities. Is it more about putting it off a bit, knowing they should but not doing it?
The larger aspect I see is that companies are not aware of how important YouTube marketing would be. So I believe that there is really not much awareness yet, especially in Switzerland, that one should definitely use this in order to remain sustainably competitive. And the other thing is definitely what you say. So you also have to find employees who say, yes, I am willing to do that. And I see a very big point that it is difficult for many people to stand in front of the camera and deliver content. And that has a lot to do with self-confidence. Many people do not trust themselves to do it or are aware of their impact and know that it may not come across well yet, and they do not want to showcase that. And that is exactly why we have decided to offer comprehensive services that take this into consideration. The mental aspect is extremely important for a YouTuber because if I am not in a good mood internally, it will be evident in my performance. This means I will not come across as confident. Since I am uncertain myself, I will unsettle the viewer. And I shouldn't do that because then I will miss my goal. I want to position myself as a competent person in the market. If I appear uncertain, then no trust will be generated with the viewer. And accordingly, I believe that someone who wants to approach this area, for example, a business. This means I want employees who are also capable of creating content regularly and who are willing to speak on camera. I believe it is extremely important that they understand they should approach this in a holistic manner, so that they don't just send these employees to a training where they learn about the YouTube algorithm, but also give them the opportunity to benefit from coaching or mentoring in the areas of personal development or communication, so that they can truly emerge as strong personalities and ambassadors of the company, and also represent the brand effectively.
How does a company find a coach or a provider who can also convey or pass on this knowledge or these skills to the employees?
I believe this is very simple in this area, because when it comes to content creation, you just have to ask yourself, does the person who is conveying something have content that I can watch? Do they understand their craft, or did they just learn it from a book? And I believe that in today's world, it is becoming less important what degrees and titles you have, but rather your experience and your proof of skills are becoming increasingly relevant. And many companies have understood this as well. They look more at where this person has experience in, where one can really see practical results that demonstrate the person understands the craft. And that is the advantage of digitalization. Everything becomes much more transparent. So if someone wants to find information about someone, they can see if that person has content, if they have customer feedback, or if they have successfully built and positioned something. If I am a company now and say I want to position my products and services, I would ask myself whether the person imparting this knowledge has actually developed and positioned products or services successfully. And that's why I believe it's not that difficult. You just need to take a closer look at the person.